as most of you should probably know by now, especially Eagles fans, you already know that Brian Dawkins announced his retirement earlier today. So, you know, I'm like, man, a couple of years ago, as Eagles fans remember, after the NFC Championship game loss against the Cardinals, we went into the offseason unsure if Brian Dawkins was going to be back. We were all hoping. I mean, none of us, nobody wanted him gone. Unless he was to retire, maybe, you know? But nobody wanted to see him in any other uniform. And, you know, we're sitting on pins and needles the whole offseason up until the day that he says he's signing with the Denver Broncos. And when that day came, man, you know, I'm sure my video is still on here. I mean, that day, I have never taken, the video doesn't really show how frustrated I was at that, you know, at that day, that moment during that day. I mean, I took it hard, man. Brian Dawkins going to Denver was the most hurtful thing, more than any game almost, was the most hurtful thing that ever happened to me when it comes to the Eagles. You know, I had no doubt in my mind that he was going to return, play a couple more years, and just go out as an Eagle. But as we all know, it didn't happen that way. And, you know, regardless of the last 3 years, playing in Denver, wearing that blue and orange, you know, it doesn't matter. Even during those 3 years, he was still a Philadelphia Eagle. In my mind and my heart, that never changed, ever. And it never will. Ever. You know, so I'm hoping he's going to come and sign a one-day contract with the Eagles to retire officially with the Eagles. But even if he doesn't, it doesn't matter to me. It really don't. He's going to be an Eagle for the rest of his life. And even when he's dead and gone, he's going to be an Eagle. It's just that simple. You know, but there will never be another Brian Dawkins, ever. And Brian Dawkins is hands down, without a doubt, the greatest draft pick in the Ray Rhodes era. I mean, second place doesn't even come close. You know, I mean, the guy was something amazing out there on the field. You know, it's a shame that a lot of younger Eagles fans that weren't able to really watch him during his prime, during his playing level, when his playing level was when he was at the top of his game, during, you know, the late 90s, the early 2000s, through the, you know, 4 NFC Championship games and the Super Bowl. That's when Dawkins was really on top of his game. His game hasn't, in my opinion, you know, with age, like with any player, everybody's game is gonna slip a little bit, you know. And I don't think even his last 3 years and his last couple of years with the Eagles, his game really fell too much, you know. But those years, I mean, there was 3 safeties for the majority of that time, at least through the early 2000s up to about 2005, 2006. There was 3 safeties: Polamalu, Ed Reed, and Brian Dawkins. Everybody else was just a makeshift. You know, there was other good safeties out there, but they weren't on that level, man. And Brian Dawkins, there is a small handful of Hall of Famers that are safeties, you know, and I'm hoping that Dawkins can be the next one. He's deserving. He really is. I mean, the man played with so much heart, and as a Philly fan, it's hard for any player in any sport in Philly, on any team. It's hard for any player to connect with Philly fans the way he has done. You know, the man plays from pregame warm-ups to the pregame introduction, all the way to the final seconds tick off the clock in the fourth quarter. He played with 150% every single second. every single second. He never gave less than he could. Never. I mean, as an Eagles fan, you definitely remember the pregame introductions. I mean, very few players, if any, can get any fan base going crazy over a pregame introduction. And warm-ups, pregame warm-ups. The dude's psychotic. The dude, Brian Dawkins, was crazy. On the field, he was crazy. You know? And then he's on the field. I mean, he's out there hitting everything. Everybody, everything, man. You know? Especially if you had the ball and he was around you, you were going down, man. You know, Brian Dawkins was never the biggest guy on the field all the time. But he had the biggest heart. I don't even doubt that for a second. Brian Dawkins had the biggest heart of any player I've ever seen. Only one player, Eagle, that comes very, I don't know how close of a second, but Deuce Staley. You know. But Brian Dawkins, I mean, he was on another level. You know. And it's sad to see him retire in a way, because I miss seeing him in Eagles green, and you know, now it's not going to happen ever again for sure because he's retiring. But even when he was with Denver, man, I loved seeing the highlights, even for Denver, just so I could see how Dawkins was doing, just so I can see him on the field. I mean, never, ever will there be another player like Dawkins. And I've said that a million times, and I'm going to say it a million more because it's so true. I can't, you know, I've never had another player to where I would have an interest on another team, even if he's a former Eagle, to see how they're doing, to watch the highlights of his game, to see how he did. You know. But Brian Dawkins, once an Eagle, always will be an Eagle. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Number 20, you know, during the retirement ceremony that they're going to have for him in September against the Giants, it's probably unlikely that they'll officially retire number 20 because, you know, I guess the NFL doesn't really encourage retiring numbers for individual teams, I guess. But Jeffrey Lurie has already said, even after he did, you know, that offseason, after he signed with Denver, Jeffrey Lurie already said that as long as he's the owner, nobody will ever wear number 20 again. And nobody has so far. And it's been 3 seasons, but nobody has. So, unofficially, it's already retired. Already. So, Brian Dawkins, he's a living Philly sports legend. But not even just on the field, man. The way he connected with fans and everybody in the Philadelphia community off the field, you know. I mean, Brian Dawkins is a man's man. You can't knock him for anything, really. I mean, you know, I'm an Eagles fan. And yeah, you know, I might be putting him like way up here on some sort of pedestal maybe for being a football player. But Brian Dawkins is a true hero. I mean, he really is. I mean, the positive. I mean, he really is, man. If Philly fans, you know where I'm coming from, man. So I'll never forget the pregame speeches that he had in the huddle, and I'm sure every Eagles fan has probably seen every single one of them. I mean, Brian Dawkins had me want to go outside and knock trees down from his pregame speeches. I mean, that's how hyped up I used to play defensive line when I played football. And if I had somebody like Brian Dawkins pregame in the huddle, giving them kind of speeches, shit, man, I tell you what, he was the leader, hands down. And Dawkins is going to be missed. But Brian Dawkins, I don't even know if I mentioned this already or not, but I'm going to say it again anyway if I have. I highly doubt that he's going to go ahead and sign some sort of TV contract with some network and do pregame shows or whatever. NFL analyst. I don't. He already said that he wants to be a high school football coach at his son's high school. I believe his son's high school in Denver, somewhere in the Denver area, where I think his son's a freshman. He's going to be on a football team or something like that. But he already said he wants to be a high school football coach, which is cool. He's going to at least take 1 year off, is my assumption. Maybe down the road he might coach or he might be on TV, something, but that's down the road, undetermined. But at least for this year, he's going to coach high school football and spend time with his family. Enjoy retirement. Can't knock him for that. You gotta respect it, man. I mean, hell, 16 years in the NFL, that's a lot of time away from family, so I can't blame him at all. And being there for his son and his, you know, his football, well, it's just his son's life, period, you know. So, man, I don't know, man, I got kind of worked up talking about this, but, you know, Dawkins, best of luck to you, man. I hope to see you in Canton, getting inducted, wearing that gold jacket in 4 years. You deserve it. Some people might say, oh, we're doing a Super Bowl. Who cares? There's people in the Hall of Fame that's never won a Super Bowl. Most notable is Dan Marino, so it doesn't matter, in my opinion. He's deserving of it. You know, he already has my vote, so, but it's not like my vote counts, but he has it anyway. So, anyway, this video's gone on too long, probably, oh God, 12 minutes, but anyway, man, I can never say too much about Brian Dawkins. Best player, in my mind, in my heart, best player in Eagles history, NFL history. Props, man. Great NFL career. So, best of luck in retirement. Enjoy it. And hope to see you back in Philly retiring for one day contract. Make it official. But even if you don't, it doesn't matter. So, peace. Dawkins. Weapon X. So, peace. Dawkins is the man. Go Birds.